Hey guys, welcome to Wrench to Drive. This is the good old Injora bouncer, guys, all built up and ready to go. Now, I was thinking about doing a build video on this, guys, and it turned out that it's pretty easy to put together, so I'm just going to walk you through the information that is probably worth knowing, and hopefully it'll save you a little bit of hassle, but not much hassle building this, guys. It's pretty easy, so I don't think you're going to have too much trouble. Even an entry-level person, that's the greatest thing about this, guys. It's a really good entry point to the hobby because it's not overly complicated, and yeah, not a lot of tricks needed. So, what do we need to know about this, guys? First of all, these crossbars here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 crossbars, guys, are metal, so that's handy dandy and good. It should make it quite strong. Really interesting bit, guys, when you put this together and thread in your M3 screws from the outside into the bar, it seems pretty solid. I don't know that you need Loctite. I did not use any. I just threaded them in. The reason I say I don't think you need Loctite, when you thread them in, you don't even actually have to hold the metal bar. It butts up against the plastic, and there's enough friction that you can thread that screw in and tighten it up real nice without even really gripping the bar. No vice grips needed or anything like that. So I don't think you even need to Loctite those, so that's pretty handy. Now, if you want to make sure that your cage does not come apart, guys, or get loosen up or whatever, you might want to use some Loctite. I'll keep you posted down the road if things are prone to loosening up. I will let you know, but my initial reaction is I don't know that that's going to happen, guys. It actually works quite well. A little bit of a surprise there. Another thing to note is when you're putting the battery tray in, guys, screws go in from the outside, and there's a captive nut. And what I was going to do was put a little glob of hot glue on the shaft of the bolt there, guys. You can see it there, that silver bit, just to hold it in place. And I forgot. Some Loctite there is probably a good idea because it's just metal on metal, no lock washer or anything like that. So I kind of suspect those might come loose. Also, the nuts are a little loose in the pockets, so you have to be a little bit careful when you tighten those up. But I didn't really have any problems. Everything stayed together pretty nicely, guys. So the instructions are really good, guys, and that's why I really don't think you need a lot of help building this thing. The screws all come in nice little bags, pre-sorted, so you really can't go wrong there. The instructions walk you through the assembly very, very nicely, guys. You screw on the side panels onto the roll cage sides. Then you screw one roll cage side onto the posts. Then you screw one side of the battery tray and one side of the chassis mount, and then you screw the rest of it together, guys. Pretty simple. Now, I didn't exactly follow that. I put the sides together first, then I put the battery tray in, then I put the transmission mount in at the end with the transmission already mounted on it, and away I went. So, pretty easy, guys. And nice clear instructions. Everything was beautifully laid out. Parts and bags, can't really go wrong. If you've seen any of my other videos on this, guys, I already had a bunch of stuff kicking around. I had these metal axles that became available because I upgraded my TRX4 with TRX4 axles, so I took this set of axles out of another crawler, and now they were available. So I decided to make this little bad boy because the chassis only cost me 40 bucks. Pretty cheap way to end up with a whole crawler. So metal axles. I bought this set of links for 20 bucks because I thought the red metal links would look really spiffy, and I was short of one link body to make a set of links, and I just figured, instead of making 3D printing a plastic link, why not just start with a set of links that's supposed to work perfectly and see how well it actually works when you're doing things with everything you're supposed to have from the start. So works pretty well, guys. These SCX-10-1 links work really good. The 4-link front, 4-link rear. Alright, so axles, these drive shafts, there's a video on my channel about how crappy they are. If you see these, do not buy these, guys. These are terrible. I put a bunch of work into these to try and make them last longer, Loctiting, grinding some metal to make them more solid, made some pins to make the balls more secure. Long story, total waste of effort, guys. I got them for like $3 each, super cheap. I still wouldn't recommend them even at that price. They're just terrible, guys. And then last but not least, shocks. These cheap metal shocks, you can get these for about 25 bucks Canadian, about 20 bucks US delivered to your door. They're not the greatest, but they work. They're not, they're not terrible. They look better than they actually function, guys. So if you like the look, more power to you. If you don't like the look, they're definitely not the best shocks available. Metal wheels, cheap Injora Super Swamper tires that I've used on a million things, guys. I like them. They're not world beaters, but they're cheap. I'm definitely not into all-out performance, so they work just fine. I've also got this set of bigger tires, 120mm tires on metal rims that I'm probably going to run at some point, as well as some monster truck tires that are kind of a paddle style that should work pretty well in the winter. So stay tuned for that coming. Alright, so that's the parts, guys. This bad boy, as it sits, all in, is about $350, which sounds kind of pricey. I understand that, guys, but keep in mind that's a $60 1080 ESC. Radio is always going to cost you about 50 bucks. Servo is about 20 bucks, so 100 bucks worth of 100 plus bucks worth of electronics, about 130. So the chassis comes in at about just a little over 200, guys, and that's with these metal axles. Now, keep in mind, I am only using these axles because I got them quite a while back. I got them really cheap, and I would not actually recommend them, guys. They got a great big huge pumpkin that gets in the way a lot, and the front axles are not super durable because these drive shafts don't hold up super well. What I would get if I was getting a set of budget axles today, guys, is a set with the U-joint style drive shafts in the front, guys, because they are way more durable. Stay tuned to the channel. At some point down the road, I probably will be getting a set of axles with those in them. This one right now is running a 3D printed knuckle so that I can run a U-joint style drive shaft on this side and a regular drive shaft on the other side. Just to see, guys, I wanted to make sure that that those were fairly durable. I got a set of them fairly inexpensively. We shall see. Alright, so putting this together, very easy. The only thing I had to do, well, not necessarily had, but I did it because, whatever. These orifices here that the links sit into, they were a little bit tight, guys. It was a bit of a pain in the butt putting it together, so I actually did a little bit of grinding on them to open them up a little bit to make them just a hair wider. You definitely didn't have to. You could wrangle those links in. They were really snug, though, like really snug. So, is it supposed to be like that? Not 100% sure. In the process of doing some grinding, guys, this does indeed look like it's nylon. This plastic seems to be some sort of nylon blend. That's a good thing, guys. Nylon is very durable, so that bodes well for the future. Hopefully this thing will be pretty tough. The way I did my electronics install, just for some test running, I just stuck the ESC to the cross brace on the chassis and on the cage, I guess, and I stuck the receiver onto the cage just with some servo tape. This or electronics tape, guys. This tape I actually got at the dollar store where I live for $4. The hobby shop seems to have the exact same tape, and it is $9. So check out the dollar store if you need some two-sided tape, guys. This is like a gel two-sided tape. It's clear. I know it's hard to tell. There's a red layer of plastic. The tape is actually clear, guys. It's like a gel. It really super sticky. Works awesome. This is, in my opinion, the best stuff to go with. It's super sticky, and because you can get it at the dollar store, you can't really go wrong. So keep an eye out for that. Way cheaper. Easy way to save $5, right? And as you can see, there's not much. These are sitting basically on a crossbar. Pretty solid, guys. It's not going anywhere, right? So should hold up pretty well. Yeah, there's lots of ways to do the electronics in this thing. One of the things you can do is actually stick it to the bottom of the battery tray. Pretty easy way to hide your electronics. There's a big orifice there. As you can see, when the suspension is fully compressed, there's still lots of space in there. All you gotta do is be careful about the wires. Make sure that you secure them out of the way. I'm not sure what the professional, quote unquote professional way to do this is. I tend not to get that upset about that sort of thing or that carried away. I've seen guys running crossways battery and electronics on the battery tray. There's all kinds of things you can do. The big downside is the transmission. is actually, this is the transmission hump here, guys. So it gets in the way a little bit, depending on what kind of schemes you got going. I'm running this belted system just because I had it on this particular transmission. I didn't feel like changing it. That's probably going to come out. The belt drive actually increases the gearing a little bit, so it gives you more top speed. These belted pulley systems, guys, gotta say, not that impressed. It's it sounds cool. It eliminates the slipper, which is probably not a good thing. The belt, I'm not convinced is going to last forever. The gearing is kind of fixed because you can't really get the pinion pulley in a whole bunch of sizes. It seems to only come in like one. Whatever, it is what it is. If it's your cup of tea, great, more power to you. My advice, don't waste your money, just run gears. What else? So I've had this running a little bit, just playing around, and it works pretty well. It's got about 4 inches of flex, 4 inches and change. So the flex is pretty good. Yeah, overall it's not bad, guys, not bad. So stay tuned for running videos. Right now where I live, it's stupidly cold outside. It's like -30. -30 is really, really hard on plastic parts. For sure this thing would probably break first thing out with a roll of any substance. So that's why I'm not running it right now, guys. I'm gonna wait. I think in the winter I'm gonna put a brushless setup in here to get some more wheel speed, because in the winter everything's slippery, there's lots of snow. Slow doesn't get you anywhere, you need wheel speed. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, so my reaction to this bad boy, guys, it's pretty good value. I would not throw a mountain of money at this thing, but the big problem with this rig, guys, is that the drivetrain isn't going to be bulletproof. These axles especially, would not recommend them. They're probably no better than the plastic ones that come with it, maybe even a little bit worse. Where you run into troubles with this, guys, is if you decide that you really want to take this seriously, it's going to cost you money to put in a good set of axles, good transmission. And at that point, you're kind of better off buying an axial Capra or something of that nature, because good quality aftermarket parts cost real money. Like to get this thing up to just performing like a Capra, it's going to cost you, Capra money. You can get a Capra kit for about $400 where I live, less if you can find a sale somewhere. Well, I've already got almost $400 into this thing, $350, not super cheap. And yes, that's including electronics, but when you consider you can get a Capra kit for about $400, $100 for electronics, because the electronics don't really change. I mean, Capra's a better car than this, guys. I mean, the reason I did this, because I had most of the parts kicking around. Didn't cost me much, right? I mean, the value is $350, but I had most of this stuff kicking around, so it really isn't $350. So if you're just getting into the hobby, I would strongly recommend just getting the Injora kit or the pre-built bouncer chassis, running that, having some fun with it, guys, because it's very affordable. The rolling chassis for this is under $200 Canadian, $100 for electronics. You're under $300 and you're up and running. Well, plus a battery and a charger. I mean, if you have nothing, it's going to cost you a little bit more, guys. This is what it is. But you get where I'm coming from. If you just get that Injora bouncer for a very reasonable price, less than 200 Canadian, I would say get it without the wheels and tires. Buy some wheels and tires that are up your alley, aftermarket. Get some metal wheels, some cheap metal wheels, and some tires, and you're good to go. These ones are super cheap, guys. These 120mm Super Swampers, these are about 30 Canadian. They can be had for less. I saw some for about 26. Kind of kicking myself for not buying a spare set, but whatever. And these wheels I got for like 27 Canadian. Super, super cheap, guys. So you definitely can get deals. Just keep your eyes peeled and jump on them when you see them. And then the rolling chassis would be worth about just a hair over 200 probably. And that's with a nice set of tires, nice metal wheels, and you're good to go. So that's kind of where I would start out if I had nothing. So you got a $200 crawler, you put in $100 worth of electronics, a nice little Hobbywing 1060 ESC, $50 radio of some sort of Banggood, $20 servo. So you can hop on Banggood, get yourself a 35 kilogram $20 servo, a Dumbo RC $50 radio, Hobbywing 1060 compatible type ESC for about $20 to $30 Canadian. You're right around $100, guys. So that's your electronics. So that's how I would do it myself. The only downside to the pre-made, the ready-to-run version that came out, the electronics weren't the greatest. So you were able to run it, but you probably were going to want to upgrade the electronics at some point. I would suggest just buying that kit and getting the electronics that you want right from the start, because then you end up with some quality stuff that's going to serve you pretty well in the long run. And the Dumbo RC radios, they're by no means perfect, guys, but they're pretty solid, and the chances that you'll get a dud are not super high. And if you do, Banggood is pretty good about treating you right. You send them some video of what's wrong, and they will most likely refund your money very, very promptly. So pretty low risk, guys. The worst thing is that if you get a dud, you're waiting because you got to order another one. You know, shipping, blah blah blah, all that fun and games, and you're out time. That's the only downside. So if your time is worth a lot of money to you guys, I would buy something locally where you can take it back if you get a dud and swap it for one that works. Be careful. A lot of hobby stores in this hobby, guys. It is what it is. A lot of times the hobby store expects you to deal with the company that provided the product to get service. So you're kind of in the same situation, which is why I tend to buy a lot of stuff out of China, even though I would prefer to buy things locally. You got to be careful. You got to ask the question up front. If I get a dud, can I bring it back and swap it for one that works? And as long as the answer is yes, you're good, right? So keep that in mind. And yeah, for a beginner vehicle, guys, I like this thing. It's pretty neat. I can't wait to get it running a little bit more. Inside, the video is boring, guys. I've had it driving around a little bit. It's not exciting, so it works. It's got pretty good flex. Yeah, stay tuned. There'll be more. And as I said, very easy to put together. So thanks for tuning in. That's this edition of Wrench to Drive, where we ask the eternal question: do you drive to wrench, or do you wrench to drive? See you next time.